The following short story is suitable for a mixed audience, and is a science fiction or rather fiction story as such. No parts, whole or otherwise, are to be copied, duplicated, reproduced and or transmitted in any way, shape, form or manner without prior written permission from the sole author, namely myself, Brian Fredborn MacGregor. Blueberry Oats by Brian Fredborn MacGregor, 2021. She was a quiet horse, just one living in those later years, out between the paddock and neighbouring fields. A racer she was during her younger years, so to speak, and race she did. A true winner through and through, and yet she probably never even realised what winning was as such. But her fans surely did. Her favourite foods were, as you have guessed, blueberry and oats, which was given partly in that the oats were given and the blueberries grew wild along the field edges, which is where she hung out mostly, and well, the grass was as free as she was. She was content as a horse, and even gave rides to the local children during fairs, and for her effort an apple, a carrot or two was given. As the years passed, her jockeys would visit her and would tend to her in that she had brought much celebrity to both of them. The summer grew warm and warmer, which helped the grass grow long and longer. Then on one particular day, well, smoke arose from those fields, and this spooked animals, which included the cattle in the neighbouring grasslands, which were also hemmed in by metal fencing on many sides. Blueberry Oats herself also became spooked somewhat increasingly by the impending danger in the distance, as rather acrid smoke was drifting in her direction from across the grasslands while she was eating from around the gate area between fields at its edge. Blueberry Oats then started pacing somewhat in the corner of the field by trotting within an ever-quickening circle as such, in ever-increasing panic. At one point she brushed into a dividing gate, which she didn't like too much, kicking out fiercely in fear before then galloping away rapidly over to the other side of the range towards the now owner's cottages. On arriving at the other side, the owner, somewhat concerned, jumped over the fence to a somewhat startled Blueberry Oats, although she calmed almost right away after being reassuringly stroked gently. The owner placed a small tether on her in this quiet side of the field, away from those fires, and with the grass very short as in very. Now here there was no danger, albeit little to munch on, although to be fair, she didn't want to eat at that point. The owner alerted the authorities, including the cattle owner, who drove over the field to rescue his various animals. The scene wasn't as bad as the cattle owner thought, as the cattle and his prize horse called Fire, well, he too had moved into this field now. The cattle owner was initially unhappy in that the cattle and his horse had wandered through the fencing, but then stopped in his tracks after realising those fires were serious. Now, after picking up a horseshoe at the gate, he then knew why the wooden gate was open. The grass and fires had made their way across the field to the gate, which was fully open and was also burned badly. However, on this side of the field a stone wall and gate were present rather than the iron posts like at the other sides. Steve-O, the cattle owner, drove back over to Mitch, who was grooming a now ever-calming Blueberry Oats, and thanked him whilst handing over the kicked shoe with a smile. Blueberry Oats is then released, who then wanders back over the field now that both men get to talking, and the fires have burned out wholly. They both realise what had just happened, and agreed to new terms there and then, where Blueberry Oats was now allowed to live rent-free as such, until whenever, so to speak. Yet, while this horse aged, its beauty never did, and she ended back up in the headlines, albeit one last time, so to speak. Shortly before Blueberry Oats left the field, albeit not to return, some kids too in fact, who once during the carnival sat on her back, whistled upon the grasslands hero, as they called her, as did many of the locals too, and she would trot over quite the thing, and with that arriving just by the fence for claps. These two teenage kids, who by the fence discussed Blueberry Oats, adding, "You know, she was born to win." No, she was born to compete. Winning is what happened. Yeah, you're right, a winning competitor. In those days, she wandered alone in that field, and back then, she wasn't alone yet still, was number one in it. These two lads both watched the grass blow side to side in that field, then look at one another. Yeah, but you know, though the grass grows tall here, it is brushed aside by the winds. And as the competition was too, well, she ran like the winds. One day she will be gone, and those winds will still push the grass over. At that point, a young horse trots up to the fence. Quite the thing. Yes, and this is that new wind for when Blueberry Oats is gone. Do you suppose Firewind, too, will run like the wind? You know, Davo, I would be more surprised if she didn't. At which point, they gently stroke a young horse, who loved attention as such, before it then gallops away, rather suddenly. Those two teenagers then laugh, whilst hanging over the fence somewhat, as Blueberry Oats' wee one, Firewind, bounces about, also very wildly. One friend then says, "That wee one is full of fire." The other one laughs it off, then adds, "And like you, it's full of wind." To which he nods, agreeing, and at that point they both laugh. They both discuss further, with one adding, "You know, the spirit of Blueberry Oats will live on." "Yeah," his friend says, whilst turning to him to answer, before then saying himself, "Just like where one wind dies, another will come along later to replace it, to run through that same grass that others shall watch too." Another Brian Fredward MacGregor production, 2021.